Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video in Wild Rift. So today we're finally back with a Kaisa updated complete guide, which has been kind of a long time coming, but we haven't really gone around to it up till now. So before we really get into the details, don't forget to check out Kaisa's basic guide. I'll put up in the cards above right now for her skills, living order, tips and tricks, as well as a couple combos. But without further ado, let's now jump straight into it. So basically, the best build for Kaisa is this kind of mainly on hit focus build with the 3 core on hit items and then going into Riftmaker and a defensive item. So let's get straight into it. So normally what I like to do is I like to go for Terminus as a first item. Terminus is an amazing first item for Kaisa. You always want to rush it to get your Q evolve as quickly as you can. You get the AD attack speed, on hit magic damage, as well as the stacking armor and stacking penetrations. And this stacking armor and penetration can actually matter in early game fights in lane after you get the item, like after the main objective fight, like at the dragon or the herald. Like when you go back to laning after that, this honestly really does matter. Then nowadays, most of the time, I actually go for defensive boots on Kai'Sa as a second item, just because Gluttonous Greaves generally just helps you out a lot in the early lane. But since you're already not going for it, I actually think that in the long run, defensive boots are generally better. So normally, I like to see if the enemy team is more AD or more AP, and then I'll go for the respective boots. If they have a very even spread, that's kind of when I go for the Gluttonous Greaves. And then third item, I go for Runan's Hurricane. Now, honestly, there is a choice between Runan's and Bork swapping the order, but basically, of course, Runan's gives you more attack speed, gives you applies your on hit, as well as allows you to attack 3 people at the same time, and helps you proc your passive on 3 people at the same time as well. Now, what I notice is majority of the time, by the time you reach mid game, you're getting into a lot of team fights and skirmishes, and Runan's actually helps you out a lot, right? Which is why I go for Runan's first. But in a pure 1v1 or like even 2v2 for example, Bork is normally going to be better because you don't need the spread as much, right? And Bork of course gives you very similar stats to Terminus, AD and attack speed. You get the vamp and you get the current health on hit damage as well, and of course the drain passive. So really you can kind of swap between these two depending on the order you want. And then the next best item for Kaisa is going to be Riftmaker. Now Riftmaker gives you Omnivamp and the Void Corruption passive, which are really the two main reasons you get it. I mean, the health is nice, AP scaling on Kaisa is pretty nice as well, but really getting that Omnivamp, which you don't really have any of because you're not going for the Gluttonous Greaves, and getting that Void Corruption passive is really insane. The Void Corruption passive, especially as an ADC who stays in combat for a very long time, you can do a lot of damage with the Void Corruption passive in the long run. Now, last item, I normally go for a defensive item. Now, this could be a Maw or something like that, but generally, as a default, Twin Guard is pretty amazing because it gives you both stats and it just makes you a lot tankier. It could be a Wit's End, things like that as well, GA, etc. Right, so for the runes, Lethal Tempo for the attack speed and range. Of course, we have the standard ADC Loadout, Brutal, Giant Slayer, and Alacrity, just, for more attack speed, dealing with tanks, as well as, just dealing more auto attack damage in general, and of course, Bone Plating for the defensive capabilities. And then for the spells, you want to go for Flash. Normally it's Cleanse because normally there is some kind of CC on the enemy team that you need to cleanse. But of course, if you don't need it, you can go for Bearer or Exhaust as well. Even some people even go for Ghost, but I don't really recommend it personally. But with all that said, let's move on to talking about the gameplay. Okay, so let's take a look at the gameplay, but of course, before we do so, as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I, of course, will be sure to address them. So first off, let's, as usual, talk about Kai'Sa's support. But before we get into that, there's actually going to be a bit of action here, right? Because I know what's going to happen here. Blitzcrank gets the hook on to the Warwick over the wall. I get a pretty much isolated Q on Warwick. We're autoing him down. He's one hit away. We flash over to get the first blood, and now we're blasting the Zyra and the Vayne as well. Now, at this point, we have a full stack lethal tempo. We are basically obviously really far ahead already the first kill. Now we don't want to overextend too far because Galio is now here for backup, whereas Victor is not. And here you can see I'm actually maintaining my lethal tempo stacks. So this is something that's very underrated, which is that sometimes when you have a full stack lethal tempo, just getting that one auto to maintain your full stacks of lethal tempo when you can, helps you just dish out auto attacks and poke a lot more easily. And you can see that despite the fact that we got a kill and we basically were playing like 2v3 for a little bit, we actually have a huge health lead against the enemy team. Well, maybe not so much anymore with the Zyra poke coming in, but you guys got the general, idea just now, right? So, as I was talking about previously, I'm going to talk about Kai'Sa's support, right? So my view on Kai'Sa's support has kind of changed over time. Now, I used to think that Kai'Sa was kind of really good with any support, and I still think that Kai'Sa is decent with any support. She's definitely not a support reliant champion. Like, unlike, like, for example, Samira or Kalista, or even someone like a Jinx or a Twitch, for example, who really wants an enchanter, right? So Kai'Sa's not really reliant on her support per se, but I found a huge difference in enchanters and engagers. So let me kind of spell it out for you. So basically with enchanters, in the early game and in the lane, you're going to be a lot weaker in the sense that you're not going to have a lot of kill potential. Alright, but in the mid to late game, they will be buffing you, and you will of course be a lot stronger than what you were with an engager. But with an engager in lane, you do have a lot of kill potential, because what the engager can do for you, other than obviously to start the fight, is also to stack your passive. So obviously your passive does stack when anybody on your team CCs, and with an engager normally they have multiple forms of CC. So think about something like a Leona or Nautilus, they have 3 forms of CC, that's 3 stacks of your passive automatically there. Even Blitzcrank here has 2 forms of CC at least. So in general, you will have a couple of stacks applied by your support, and then when you land your W, that's another 2 stacks, and then hopefully you can auto like once or twice to just prompt the passive, and that's a major source of damage for Kai'Sa, especially, I'm really in all stages of the game, right? Kai'Sa's passive is really strong in all stages of the game, but this gives you the kill pressure in the early lane. So now personally, I like playing with engaged support, who can of course get me kills in the early game and allow me to snowball. And I that's just my preference, right? I think playing with enchanters is still absolutely fine, but that's just, again, my personal preference. So in this game, we have a Blitzcrank, who I guess you could classify as an engager, but is really more of a catcher, right? He's gonna hook someone, and we can kill them, like what he did to the Warwick just now. Now, unfortunately, he could not really replicate that after that Warwick incident, and as of now, he's pretty much landed no hooks. Now here we can see Zyra recalling the middle lane. Now this is very important to not do, which is the Zyra recalling the middle of the lane there is really just a bait, right? Now why is that a bait? Because even though their jungler is not here, Blitzcrank is not here either. So if I walk forward to cancel, as Blitzcrank gets a very nice engage, I ult forward to get the kill onto the Vayne, but unfortunately Warwick is now actually here, comes in and cleans up the kill on me eventually. But still a pretty nice play by Blitzcrank, and a really good follow-up by me to ult all the way to the other side to get the isolated Q. Of course, unfortunately, Warwick was behind the wall, so maybe that was the reason why Vayne was stepping up so far forward in the first place, as Blitzcrank lands another hook, but when I'm not around, and he is in a spot of bother under the tower, right there. So yeah, it's been a pretty action-packed, early game so far. And yeah, so just now back to my point on why it was a bait, right? I haven't really finished my explanation, right? So it's a bait because if Blitzcrank is not here, regardless of whether Warwick is here or not, Vayne and Zyra can kill me, right? And what that means is if I walk forward to cancel Zyra's back, she will simply root me on the spot, full combo me for free, and allow Vayne to get off a couple auto attacks for free. So this itself could kill me, and probably Vayne will have to flash under the tower for another auto or two to complete the kill, or if I manage to miss position, she could condemn me into the wall and pick up the kill that way as well. But either way, I would be bursted down, pretty much 100 to 0, and then just ran down for the remainder of my health. So when your support isn't here, you cannot, cancel the back, unless I cancel it with the W from long range, but I cannot walk up and cancel the back, because that is pretty much just asking to die, and that is just very unideal, obviously. So here I'm using the W to just check the bush there, no one is actually there. And we're pretty much in a 1v1 against Vayne, up till the point that Warwick is ulting me and now running me down, tanking the tower. I try to get to the fruit, but it doesn't quite work out, and we do end up dying. However, Warwick is now deep behind enemy lines. My team is trying to catch him out. However, they don't really do very much damage, and Warwick is kind of getting away up till the point where Victor shows up, gets the kill on Warwick with the Chaos Storm. Chaos Storm is proccing multiple times, and he basically ends up getting what is basically a triple kill. Flashes away on 1 HP, and actually looks like he's going to survive. Nope, he is not. The Galio is able to finish the kill. Now we have a 1v1 against Morgana and Galio. I'm now up, respawning out of the base, and Urgot is now here as well. Now I think this is a really dangerous position because they could have both engaged on me, so I probably shouldn't have walked up that way. I should probably walk to the lane behind or with my Morgana instead of splitting up. And now the fight is continuing with Blitzcrank now here. I'm just blasting onto the Urgot. I have full stack lethal tempo now. And here, Zyra flashes in gets caught by the root, and down she goes to Morgana's puddle. And now with the numbers advantage, we are kind of trying to step in. They do secure the dragon though, but Warwick loses his mind, jumps in 1v4, does kill off the Morgana, but I do get the return kill instead. And here Vayne, I get the kill on her as well with the full stat passive, and then down goes Urgot as well. Galio has no escape and pretty much doesn't even try to run. And overall, even though they got the dragon and a kill, we got 4 kills, which, as I mentioned quite often in my videos, it's really, dragons are not what wins you games, right? The stats that dragons gives are borderline negligible, right? Soul is something, but the stats that any dragon gives is borderline negligible. So most of the time, why dragons win games is because of the kills you get around the dragon area. In this case, it's a kind of a negative example because the enemy team got the dragon and the kill, but we got 4 kills. Now, I would much rather get 4 kills than any like dragon. I would even trade 4 kills for a dragon soul, for example. I think 4 kills are way more valuable, especially depending on who gets the kills. Of course, in this case, they get some of the kills, and the other carries on my team did get some of the kills. I mean, as long as Blitzcrank doesn't get the kills, it's kind of fine, right? Because Blitzcrank is really the only one who doesn't make very good use of gold. Kai'Sa, Victor, Echo, and Morgana all make really good use of gold. And Morgana is actually going for a more supportive kind of build with a rush of the Rylai's. So yeah, I mean, we're in a pretty good spot, right? So you can see here I've completed my defensive boots, and I've actually gone for Merc Treads this game. And the rationale for that is the enemy team is predominantly magic damage. What do I mean by that, right? We have Urgot, who's a bruiser who does physical damage, not too bad. We have Warwick, who does do physical damage, but his passive causes him to do magic damage. So Warwick is like partially magic damage. We have Galio, who's magic damage. We have Zyra, who's magic damage, and we have Vayne, who does do physical damage, but most of her damage is true damage, so you can't block that whatever you build. And also she has Stormrazor now, which she's probably going to Magnetic Blaster next. Both of those do magic damage as well. So in this particular game, the Merc Treads are going to be the more valuable defensive boots, and the enemy team is predominantly magic damage. This is not very common. Most of the time you will be building the plated steel caps, because most of the time enemy teams will be majority physical damage, but of course you do have those games every once in a while where it is the opposite case like this. So here a fight is going down in mid lane. We do get a pick onto the Galio. Blitzcrank hooks the Urgot back in. Urgot is making his getaway. We're not going to be able to chase him down under tower, but a pretty nice pick by us to counter engage onto the enemy team. In the meanwhile, the enemy team is using Herald in the top lane and getting the top lane tower. However, we're too late to kind of stop that. Echo is going to try to stop them from getting the tier 2, which should be a pretty simple thing to do. And in the meanwhile, we're pushing tier 2 on mid lane. So we are trading up in terms of towers. We get 2 towers for 1, and they even use the Herald, which is pretty tragic. Now here Warwick goes in onto Morgana. Does get some kind of shield that prevents him from getting hooked. That was pretty weird. I'm not sure how he immuned the hook there, because there's no veil on the enemy team, and there isn't any kind of CC immunity either. But the fight ends up going sideways. I'm gonna have to run. Victor now is here, so I'm seeing if we can turn, but the enemy team decides not to over chase, which is a really good decision by the enemy team. And as a result, I will simply back and get items. So here I've got Runans. As you see, I have my E-Evolve, and as you guys noticed already, even before I've completed this Runans, right, there's been so many team fights and skirmishes that Runans would have came in really handy, which is why going for Runan second, I think in majority of cases is normally going to be the better play. Now of course, if you're in a case where perhaps, let's say, you are behind, right, and you kind of don't really want to fight all that much, maybe going for Runans after Borg might be the way to go. But here you can see Echo is definitely going to get ganked by like 4 people here, so we're trying to make our way there. Echo can buy a lot of time with the ultimate, for example, but eventually does go down. Now here, unfortunately, I get feared, and I eventually can dash into the backline and basically just clean up and kill everybody here. Victor as well, the Chaos Storm picks up a double kill, and we essentially wipe out the entire enemy team. And our goal lead is now ballooning to 10k, so now we're in a very good spot against the entire enemy team. My team is going to push down onto the tier 3. Meanwhile, I'm just picking up the enemy jungle farm as well as just pushing down mid lane. Dragon is going to be coming up real soon. I think probably the team is going to be wanting to go for that. But look at what's happening in the bot lane, right? So if you take a look at that huge wave in the bot lane, now this wave is a couple kills worth of gold. It's way more valuable than the dragon, right? So as long as my entire team doesn't die around dragon, this will be a positive trade. Let's look at all this gold, right? This is like maybe a kill and a half or 2 kills worth of gold right there, right? So I picked all of that up. The enemy team is contesting my team at the dragon, so my team is fighting 4v5, right? With me basically split pushing at this point, right? Because I've gone down to catch the wave, and now I might as well push another wave, and you can see my team is actually winning. So now here I realize Vayne is 1 HP, and she's walking into dangerous territory. So I'm thinking maybe I can get a snipe on her. Maybe I can actually still help my team. So here I'm looking for the angle. I'm looking for the angle. I hit the W, and then I dash in, pick up actually 2 kills here, and then I'm going for a triple. And despite the fact that I started off split pushing, I actually end off with getting a triple kill instead. And that is from me rotating to the fight instead of just blindly split pushing and getting an inhib. I mean, honestly, getting an inhib is also really, really good if I was actually able to get it. But with the respawn of Urgot and Warwick, that would have been impossible anyway. So I made the better play here by rotating back to the dragon and securing the dragon with my team. Morgana, of course, getting the secure. In the meanwhile, Warwick and Urgot have actually ignored the inhib completely and decided to contest the dragon. So you can see that the minions that I pushed in just now from those 2 waves nearly take the entire inhib. So look at the HP of the inhib on the minimap. It's just like a couple autos away from dying at this point. Simply, as I said, because it was ignored by the enemy team. That is insane. So now, because of how much CC there is, I actually decided to buy a QSS despite the fact I have cleanse. Because number one, you cannot cleanse suppression, right? So Warwick Ultimate cannot be cleansed. You need QSS for that, which is why I'm going for that QSS. And furthermore, there's just a lot of CC, right? So that would be very beneficial. So here a fight is kind of breaking. I can see my Runan's kind of popping off. Now I'm taking a lot of damage on the front line. That's not very ideal. I'm in a 1v1 against Vayne. I'm going to pop the ulti just to cut off her escape, as well as to get the shield to ensure I don't die to her. Now here me and Blitzcrank are insanely low, but if my team can get a pick like Blitzcrank Hook or Morgana Root, I can still get the damage off to finish a kill. But looks like that is not really the case. Warwick is now jumping in. Galio is now jumping in as well. Not sure about that one. And here, a couple of people on the enemy team are dead. Now honestly, could be a Baron opportunity, but none of us are particularly healthy, right? We're all relatively low, right? So we're not really going to take that risk. Now Morgana, I think, is pretty overextended in my opinion, because the enemy team could just jump on her right now, and she is our jungler, so this could be a little bit problematic, but thankfully she does manage to walk away just fine. So Echo instead is now overextending into the enemy's jungle, into a choke point, which is really, really bad. He ults back in. I'm now just trying to help out. I don't want to dash into the enemy backline here, so I pretty much fight the only person I can reach easily, which is Urgot, right? So even if I don't kill him, which I actually am killing him at the moment, I can stack up my lethal tempo here. I get condemned into the wall. I QSS out of it, and then here I ult forward and then just go for kills at this point, right? Flash forward. Unfortunately, I missed out on 1 kill there. I thought this could be a penta kill here, but I end up getting a triple. Someone else cleans up the last kill I left behind, and Gallo actually escapes with his life as well. So yeah, it wasn't gonna happen. So now I'm stealing enemy jungle. Victor steals enemy jungle from me, I guess, and just trying to maintain my farm as well. So now here there's the Nexus shield, right? So there's nowhere we're really ending the game. So this is kind of a fruitless effort, right? We're not gonna be able to end the game from this. But I'm kind of trying to just farm the minions here a little bit, just to lifesteal a little bit, and also just, of course, get our waves pushed in. Now the top lane wave is huge. It's probably gonna get the tier 2 tower for the enemy team, which is not very ideal. Echo is actually going to stop it here, so we are going to be able to save that tower. Now it's just a simple matter of us coordinating as a team and playing together as one and grouping up, not getting picked off, because when you're the winning team, you always just don't want to get picked off, right? So here Warwick is trying to run into our entire team, gets CC'd. I'll ult over, kill him, and then we are going to go for the Galio next. Once again, cleansing the CC of the Galio, we finish him off. Then going on to the next target, we get a triple, and here I think it's another penta, but Blitzcrank steals the penta by hooking someone out of the way and stealing my penta, which is really unfortunate. However, we will be able to end the game from this. The whole enemy team is dead. We have a wave in mid, as well as I'm pushing the wave in bot. Honestly, I don't even think I needed to push in this bot wave. Could have just gone mid with Echo and ended the game. And Morgana and Victor now realize that they don't even have to do Baron. We can just end the game. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this one, right? So a little bit sad. Could have been a pentakill there, but got stolen. Anyways, I'm gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.